Sometimes it's hard to tell if a guy's going to be a winner early on, but sometimes a diamond needs a good scrubbing before it can really, really shine. Hi, I'm Neil Bonnet. In Winston Cup stock car racing, winning involves a whole lot more than fast driving. If you got a lot of talent and a real good race car and you win a lot of races, you're going to find yourself with a whole bunch of new responsibilities. You're going to find yourself in demand of a lot of people. Some drivers aren't ready for all that, and a good example is my old hunting buddy, Dale Earnhardt. He grew up poor in a North Carolina mill town. Then he came out of nowhere to win the national championship for a new owner named Rod Osterlund. A year later, Dale's ride was sold right out from under him, and he had nowhere to turn. He'd made no plans. He didn't know you had to do anything but finish first and win races. But Dale didn't quit, and now he's won over $12 million and 4 national championships. In this special two-part edition of Winners, we'll see that for Dale Earnhardt, winning came easy. The challenge was learning to handle all the fame and fortune that winning brought with it.
Winners is brought to you by Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. And Autolite Spark Plugs and wire and cable products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you...
Gentlemen, the 1990 Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt.
At the end of the 1990 season, at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City, Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt picked up a check for $1.2 million. With that payday, Dale became stock car racing's all-time leading money winner. In the case of Dale Earnhardt, winning has brought an abundance of fame and fortune, but he has virtually no time for himself. This is Dale and me slipping off to my farm in Alabama to do a little bit of hunting. I'm the first one to tell you we don't do as much as we used to. This particular trip took months and months of planning to get Dale to be able to hunt a little bit and sit down and talk. Dale, I know it's a lot harder if you get away. We used to go hunting a lot, and you had a lot more spare time than you do now. But since you're winning all these races and championships, your time's gone crazy. How do you keep your priorities straight and let the racing be the main thing that, along with the media and everything else, you got to keep racing on top where the other comes with it?
Well, that's the easy part, really, because they know we can't do anything while we're racing on Sunday. But really, it's really been busy this year more than any other time, Neil. You know, we was real busy in '86 and '87 when we won the championships, but I still was down here hunting with you a lot. And this year, I've had very little time to get away and go hunting. And as you know, this is the first time I've been down here this year, and it's late January, which is the best time to hunt. So, you know, maybe we'll get a better deer this time.
I hope we can. I know it's been tough, Dale, with the media thing. Did that just come natural, or did you have to work to learn how to handle the PR side of it, working with the media and the sponsors, and not the winning the races, like you say, that's the fun part. Then it's almost like the work to get out and take care of the other responsibilities. Hey, you had to work at that. Does that come along pretty easy?
Well, it sort of came as learning the ropes in Winston Cup racing. You know, you learn the press guys, and you have good interviews and bad interviews at first, and then you sort of learn how to make an interview work for you. I think that's the important thing I've learned is when you got somebody that's not really that up on racing that's a bad interviewer, is sort of carry them along and make the interview turn out for you. And you just got to work with it and work at it. You know, I've never been a public speaker and never really enjoyed it that much, but still you talk about what you know best in racing, and it gets easier, so you just do the best you can do with it and go on.
Well, I want you to bear down. I need all the help I can get on these interviews, but...
We'll bear down on these.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Dale. Folks, Dale wasn't always the easiest guy to work with the media, but he's come a long way in that area, just as he has in racing. But he certainly remembers where he came from.
You know, my dad is a place in my heart, and he's been in my heart in racing for all of my racing years. I grew up idolizing him. I stood on the back of a truck on a tire, and I turned around each lap he ran, I ran. And it burned it right into me what I wanted to do. And I never dreamed I'd be a 4-time Winston Cup champion of NASCAR. And I was champion '80. I was a little bit young and reckless and didn't understand really what Winston Cup racing was all about and NASCAR was all about.
Look at my old buddy standing there in his little monkey suit, collecting all that money on top of the world. Let me show you something. I want to show you the real Dale Earnhardt. This is rural North Carolina. short track racing on a Saturday night. To the folks in this part of the country, this is a way of life. And the guy that wins on these little bull rings are the local heroes. In the late 50s, in places like Concord, Hickory, Hillsboro, the guy with a big reputation as the toughest short track racer around was Dale's dad, Ralph Earnhardt.
He was a whale of a racer, no doubt about it. He was very, very aggressive, yet fair. They didn't give anything, but they certainly took what they thought was their part of the racetrack. And he was a good fella to race against because you knew that he was going to race hard.
In Ralph's life, two things really mattered, racing and his family. Growing up, Dale only had one hero, his father. And if racing kept the family poor, Dale certainly did notice it.
I thought we were richest people in the world and having the most fun there was to have. I didn't know.
You were.
You know, we didn't really have much as a family growing up. We grew up there in rural Kannapolis, and Daddy ran a garage and did a little mechanic work and raced out of it. And so we really didn't have the finer things in life, but we had a good time and don't ever remember wanting anything. But I had a good childhood and good life growing up there with a big family, 2 brothers and 2 sisters and a bunch of uncles and aunts and cousins, and you know, we just had a big time there. And I remember Daddy going to racing on Thursday night when I had to go to school, and I couldn't wait till Friday morning to him get home. I could get up and see what happened, what went on. I'd want to hear the whole story, you know. I couldn't wait to get home after school on Friday to listen to what went on Thursday night, riding to the race on Friday evening, and then Saturday we'd get up and work on the race car Saturday and go race on Saturday night somewhere. And I just couldn't wait to hear about it or see what was going on next. But it was just seemed like that's all there ever was to me, is racing and working on them or doing something with them from the time I was a kid. And then when I was old enough to get in them, I was trying to figure out how I could get in a race car. My dad, he really didn't put me in one, and he didn't tell me no, but he didn't tell me yes. I sort of had to talk a guy into letting me drive one. So, you know, we had to do it ourselves, so to speak. You know, I didn't race but about 1.5 years, 2 years, and he passed away. So my racing career really hadn't got off the ground yet. It just sort of was running on dirt there. And I had to go from there with the help of my brothers and my mom and a lot of Dad's friends. And I just had to go from there and work hard, and I did without a lot and sacrificed a lot. And then you know, the opportunities came in 78 and 79 there to get with Osterlund. So it was a combination of my dad's old friends and my dad's reputation that got me sort of in the door. And then the ability to go and do things and make a showing on my own kept me in the door. And just used a little common sense and remember the things Daddy told me, the do's and don'ts on, and take and do the best I could with them.
There's little doubt what Dale learned during those early years growing up. Folks, you draw the parallels. Listen to Dale talk about his father while he drives that race car.
I think he was a real independent type person. He was tough. He's a tough driver. He didn't give much to anybody, but he didn't take that much except unless it was down to the last lap. If he could slide you over a little bit and get by you and go win the race, he'd do it. But now if he thought there was a chance of getting in a scuffle there and tearing his car up, he'd run second to you because he knew he had to pay for fixing it. So he was a smart racer, and he raced within his means. He won the championship in '56 in the sportsman division, like the modified sportsman division in NASCAR, and drove for Cotton Owens in '61. And along in there, and he's raced against Ned Jarrett and all, Tiny Lund, Bobby Isaac, and all these guys, and David Pearson. And when I started racing, and all these guys was telling me how he raced, and you know, and things like that. And I knew how he raced. You know, I watched him. I stood on the back of the truck most of the time on a tire, and every lap he made, I made. So, you know, when I sat down in a race car, it was like I knew what was going on.
Before you can win big races, you gotta pay your dues and win a lot of little races. And Dale was no exception. Through his late teens and his early 20s, Dale Earnhardt was out there grinding away on all his little local short tracks, just trying to make a living. Dale would have $1 million paydays and dinners at the Waldorf Astoria, but you'd never have known it if you'd seen him in 1982.
That has to make it seem all worthwhile more.
You know, when Cale passed me and traffic got in my way and he got by me because
if I had come as far as Dale Earnhardt, I'd be the President of the United States. Not that I want to be, but he really has come a long way, and I got to give him a lot of credit for that. He's educated himself. He's become very easy in any kind of company, and he used to be very shy until he got in a race car. A lot of people had a lot of influence on his life, and he's listened to a lot of good advice, and he's done something about it. I'm very proud of him.
I remember you rolling into Huntsville, Alabama one night. First time I ever saw you at racetrack, we was up there racing, and people don't realize when you start at that level, even though you're winning in the short tracks, it's hard to pay the bills. At that particular time, how far down were you, and financially, where can a guy stand and then end up doing what you did, getting $1.2 million check here a month ago?
Well, I tell you, it seemed like it was a never-ending battle of how I was going to get to the racetrack financially, whether I was going to have gas money. I'm talking about gas money, you know. And well, I remember that race we got to Huntsville, Alabama that night, and I went out and practiced, and I rolled in the pits there and got out of the car. We was running good. Harry Gant was running good that night. And I got out of the car and was messing around with the tires and looked, and there's water running out the exhaust pipe. It doesn't crack the head on that thing. And Harry Gant and them guys said, well, it looks like you have to load it up. And we fired that thing up and poured a bottle of this iron-tight stuff in there and sealed it up. And I ran 200 laps that night, ran second to Harry, run all night long. And you just did what you had to do. You got by and worked, and I borrowed money from the bank there in Concord and close to Kannapolis there from a friend of mine on a 90-day note, $500 on a 90-day note, and have to pay the interest on it in 90 days to carry it over. And then I'd finally win enough money to pay it off, and just to make it in racing, just to keep going. I had to buy tires or whatever.
I know you can look back to that afternoon in Huntsville, and that's enjoyable sometimes is winning a Charlotte or a Daytona, because that was the hard part to do, to come out of that area there and move up to the Winston Cup racing.
That's right. You think you're at the pinnacle of your career, really, as you're running second in Huntsville, Alabama, and then you turn around and you get an opportunity to drive a car on a speedway and you make a decent showing, and then the next thing you know, you're sitting there and you look around, there's 6, 8, 10 race cars there for you to drive, like it was with Osterlund. And it was just, still today, it's amazing to walk in the shop and see all the equipment, all the cars, and all the people working just for you to drive that race car. Because I can remember when I had one race car and I was scrounging to get tires to go on it to go race. You know, it's just deals like that. I had small sponsors, Doc Cycle Shop and Danny Made Foods, and I can name just millions of them. This $500 here, $1,000 there deal, you know, and to get you through. And the advertisement did them a bit of good in Huntsville, Alabama, because there were stores in Kannapolis, North Carolina, but still they supported me. I raced in Nashville, Tennessee, and all. I raced in Nashville the night after Huntsville that night. I'd race from, like Thursday night, we'd go to Columbia, and we'd race in Savannah on Friday night. We'd race in Coburn, Virginia on Saturday night. I mean, I raced all over, just all over the place, trying to get more experience in racing at the sportsman level.
When you were struggling to make ends meet and you had a little bit of help along the way, did you think that any time you're just going to have to give it up and quit?
Yeah. We was long about 78 there. We'd looked like I was going to have to get a regular job there for a little bit.
Good working for a living.
It got real tough that year, and you know, life was tough and living was tough. Family was having a hard time. You know, I was having a hard time making it for the wife and kids, and you know, Osterlund came along and saved the day. It all worked out for me then. That's when it turned around. 70, and I got the opportunity with Osterlund in late 78. And run the wheels off of them ever since.
(1979). Dale Earnhardt gets a shot at the big time with a California millionaire car owner named Rod Osterlund. He also won Rookie of the Year that year. Just 1 year after that, racing the likes of Richard Petty and Bobby Allison when they were at the peaks of their careers, a young Dale Earnhardt won his first championship. Can you believe that? There's me and Dale back in 1980 at Riverside. He sure has aged since then. The early success that you had really put a spotlight on you, you know, when you won the championship real early in your racing career. What did that do to Dale Earnhardt? Where did that put you without the experience of the media and all that stuff? The success was there, but then you had to cope with a lot of problems early, being able to handle all that.
Well, I was a real rough diamond at that time. I was really rough on the edges. I was, you know, young and excited about racing, but I really didn't pay attention to the financial things going on around me, the press stuff going around me. Wasn't really worried about the sponsor that much until 81 when Osterlund walked out on the deal and sold it. But I just, you know, was excited about what I was doing in racing. I really was sort of, when we won the championship, and the Rookie of the Year was great. When we won the championship, it was sort of like, oh boy, yeah, okay. And now I look back on it, and I know how important it is to be the Winston Cup champion, how important it is to the sponsors and the press and everybody involved in racing around your team and everything. It was to win championships, and it is to win championships. But right then, I was just excited about it and having fun. Yeah, it was a big deal, you know.
I know when you rose to the top real quick in 79 and 80 with Osterlund, and he sold the team.
In 81.
Yeah. How frustrating was that? Where did that leave you when that happened?
It left me lost, really. All of a sudden, the 5-year deal I had, or thought I had with Osterlund, was gone, and I was driving for a guy that, you know, Jim Stacy, that told me, he said, well, you can stay and drive or you can quit. It really don't matter to me. And that really, you know, so, well, this guy really cares a lot about me. So it left me lost there for a while, but fortunately, I had some good advice from some more people, and that person was Junior Johnson, and we went and sat down with Richard Childers, and Junior and Richard and myself sat down there and talked, and Wrangler, our sponsor at that time, and decided to go out on our own and run the Wrangler sponsor at Richard Childers from the last 10 races there in 81, and it turned it around for me. I think that may have been an opportunity more than it was a disaster that year, but it was really rough on me, but it learned me a lot. I learned a lot about, you know, people, and, you know, people that's got money, and, you know, situations, how they can turn around.
There has been a whole lot of security in racing. It's kind of going from track to track. It's almost like going from season to season to make sure you're where you want to be.
Well, that's true, and the security in racing to me is didn't come, I think, until about 86. In 87, we won the championships, and I got more secure then because I felt like I was there, and, you know, I had a solid foundation in racing. I wasn't just going to be there, you know, year in, year out. I feel like I've got a solid foundation in racing now. Our contracts with our sponsors and everything's there, and our confidence in the team and the car owner and myself, and my confidence in myself. I think I'm there. I think I've made it. I think I'm not going to get booted out tomorrow if I have a bad day, you know.
Dale was way down in 1981, but he was determined to fight his way back to the top. Along the way, he had added to that reputation as an aggressive driver. Some would say a very aggressive driver. That's me and Dale at Daytona, and I'll be the first to tell you he's aggressive. This kind of driving often leads to controversy. In part 2 of Dale's story next week, we'll look at controversy just like this.
I was clearly under him, and I was going on. I clearly had the quickest car. You know, he was trying to cut me off every way he could. Do you think
I can see how Elliott might get a little bent out of shape. I never said Dale Earnhardt wasn't a controversial winner. I just said he was a winner, and my friend. If you come back and join me next week, we'll show you more excitement, color, and even some of the controversy that has made Earnhardt a winner among winners.
Winners has been brought to you by Autolite Spark Plugs and Wire and Cable Products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go. And Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later.
Hi, I'm Neil Bonnet. Welcome to the show, and welcome to my home here in Hueytown. You know, not all winners are born poor, but I tell you what, Dale Earnhardt certainly was. Dale spent his youth watching his father scratch out a living on the North Carolina short tracks. Last week, we saw how he followed in his dad's footsteps. He made the big time. The year after that, he won the rookie title. He followed that up with the Winston Cup the following year. But then his team was sold out from under him, and he had to start all that climb over again. And to put it mildly, it was a controversial trip.
Of it is, I was clearly under him, and I was going on. I clearly had the quickest car. You know, he was trying to cut me off every way he could.
Bill spun that 95 car out and caused a big mess, and then he come up there and tried to spin me out twice. I didn't take it.
Part 2 of Dale Earnhardt's winning story, coming right up.
Winners is brought to you by Autolite Spark Plugs and Wire and Cable Products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go. And Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now.
In the middle of 1981, Dale's team was sold right out from under him. But he got another ride, and he finished out that season driving for rookie car owner Richard Childress. Together, Dale and Richard, they were destined to become a powerhouse. But that would have to come later.
In 1981, Dale and I, about halfway through that season, we talked about, what he was, what to do. Was he going to stay with me or go to Bud Moore? And he had one other option he could go to. And we talked about it, and he said, well, what would you do? And I said, knowing the condition that our race team is financially, and said, we're just not capable right now of running a driver of your status, which he was, even in 81, he was, a winner, a reigning champion from 1980. And I told him I would go drive for Bud Moore, and that's what, we just talked about it one day, and he came to me and said, I'm going to drive for Bud, and someday maybe we'll get back together, and we kind of left it at that.
In 82, Dale began a 2-year stint driving for Bud Moore. They won a race here and there, but the real success, it was just around the corner. In 84, Dale rejoined Richard Childress to form a team that was destined to dominate stock car racing. The matchmaker who put Dale and Richard together was Junior Johnson.
I thought Dale was wasting his career at a lot of places he was going, and I've helped a lot of young boys along with their career in that situation, and I felt like if Richard and Dale could get together and form the right kind of team, sooner or later they was going to gel and do good at it, and that's exactly what's happened. The biggest reason that I never did Hardale, and it's pretty simple. One time he was available, I had Cale Yarber. The next time he was available, I had Darrell Waltrip. He just came along when I had probably two of the great race drivers, and me and him never did hook up because I had them two guys. It was a timing situation more than anything else.
Now, the foundation of Earnhardt's success was in place. His wife and his car owner would stand firm and see him through the controversies that lay ahead. During a hunting trip, Dale and I had a chance to sit down and talk about both his racing and his family. Dale, when, Teresa got into the picture here, and you mentioned her earlier, how helpful she's been in things, what has she done to help you here with handling this championship and the struggle to gone all the time and the media stuff? She's been a big help for that, hasn't she?
She cut a lot of my hunting time out this year. We were fortunate to get together. She's been from the time we met, we've been friends, and then we started dating several years later after we met. And we decided to get married. I think that was the best business decision I made. She's been good for me in business and been good for me as a friend. She's stuck in there, and Teresa was there when I didn't have anything. And she stayed there, and she's been there through the whole thing till we've got something. And we've made the most out of it together, and we've raised my family or my kids that I had my previous marriage there, and she come right in and has been mama to them and helped raise them, and we've got a two-year-old daughter now that we're just having a big time with now, and she's a great mom, and she's a good business. She's got a good business head on her shoulders, and she makes smart decisions, and you know, she stands behind me. She puts some pressure on me a lot of times, but she stands there with me.
When you went back to Childress, when you first got back here, you had a little bit of motor trouble and all. What made you feel like you could stick it out with them and get that end of it fixed?
84, we went along fairly well. We had a few problems. 85, we struck a streak there. We blew up, I think, 10, 11 times that year. Had some bad races. And he came to me and told me, he said, look, I know there's other people wanting you to drive their cars, and you know, we can't get this thing worked out, and we're not having any success. If you want to, you know, go sign with somebody else, I'll understand, you know. He said, I can't hold you to doing something that we're not doing. We're not holding our end of the deal up. I said, nah. I said, you know, we came into this deal together, and we put this thing together, so to speak, together, the sponsor and everything, and I'm going to stand in here with you. We're going to make it. And it did. It turned around the very next year and won that championship. So it's just, I may have seen something and not realized it, and he's seen something in me that if we could ever get our act together, we would, you know, be one of the, you know, dominant factors in racing. And I think since '86, we've been that. You know, we won 3 out of 5 championships, and it just shows itself the team, and Richard and I make a good team, and it's a team effort.
That team effort earned the championship in 1986 and again in '87. But the title battles were marked by crashes and controversy.
Richard Petty back a spot, and wham! Earnhardt and Brett Bodine got together. Down off turn 4.
Al clearly had the quickest car. You know, he was trying to cut me off every way he could.
And I slipped him up high just to let him know I was mad. Then he tried to wreck me after the caution there. I think he's a little upset.
Side by side, down to the inside. Oh! 4 cars there. Oh no, there's Bodine into the fence.
It all came to a head when Dale and Jeff Bodine got to bumping each other pretty regularly. NASCAR stepped in. They started penalizing any driver found guilty of rough driving. They also invited drivers involved in incidents down to Daytona for a cooling off dinner with NASCAR officials. My old buddy Dale, he attended a few of those dinners. You're known for that hard-charging aggressiveness, which I appreciate in anybody on the racetrack. And I feel like that's just, you know, I hunt with you, I fish with you. When you're hunting, you want to be the best at that. When you fish, you want to catch the biggest fish. I think that's your personality showing through on the racetrack. And I mean, that's just my theory, but you don't change. You don't change on the track or off the track. And I think it took a while for people to realize that you're not out there just running around all over the racetrack doing this, that. You're racing just like you've always lived, wide open and trying to win.
Well, that's the only reason you want to go out there is try to win. You know that. And I've had races with you when we've gotten pretty physical on the track, and we've never had a problem with it. I get in a race with you, and if I get into you a little hard, the next lap you get right back into me. We went on a race and never had a problem with it. And that's just the way I am. I race hard, and people took me wrong a little bit, I think, to start with, and now they maybe learned to understand me a little better. But yeah, I am competitive. And it's important to me to try to be the best. It's important to me to go out there and when I sit down in a race car to give it everything I got. You look around, you got guys working on a race car all hours of the day and night that's giving 120% of their time, and they want to win. And you got more than yourself sitting down in that seat, turning that steering wheel. You got, you know, the team, the sponsor, and a whole lot of people depending on you and wanting to win too.
I know back in '86 and '87, in the championship, they were laced with a little bit of controversy, but I think, personally, I feel like that was a lot of media hype. I know there was some controversy at times on the racetrack, but it can kind of get out of control. Was that media hype more than actuality?
A few things happened there, and then it sort of snowballed, and some of the other drivers got in on it, said some things, and press wrote some things, and it just got sort of snowballed there, and I stuck to my guns and stayed in my case and went on and raced, and I think we overcame that, and it's, you know, just all you can do, you know yourself. If you go out there and the engine blows up, it's pretty much easy to say the engine blew up. If you go out there and get into somebody and cause a wreck, and you come in and say, well, I got into him and caused a wreck, I ain't never got out of the car and says, hey, I didn't mean to do that, or you know, I didn't do that. I've got out of the car and said, yeah, I got into him, or we got together and we wrecked, or whatever. And I'm not going to pull no punches when it comes to what's wrong. I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to get it worked out, and we're going to fix it. If it's me driving, or if it's the chassis, or it's the car, that's the way we've always handled it, Richard and I.
1990, Dale Earnhardt and Mark Martin had a great battle right down to the wire for the Winston Cup Championship. But for a while, it looked like Earnhardt wouldn't even be a part of that battle. The 1990 Charlotte 500, Earnhardt spins out in turn 1. With 3 races left in the season, Martin's leading in the points race. Earnhardt loses a tire exiting the pits, a potential disaster. But back in the garage, Dale rolls his sleeves up and helps the crew get his car back on the racetrack. That kind of hard work and determination paid off. In the last couple of races, Dale passed Mark in the points and pulled out the championship. During the stretch run, the title rivals were constantly side by side. We've seen Earnhardt go head-to-head in the championship runs before. First with Darrell Waltrip, then with Bill Elliott. And the words off the track were often a lot more biting than the beating and banging on the racetrack.
Well, I've never, you know, I haven't been in any run-ins with Earnhardt. Everybody else has. He's not choosy, you know. He don't seem to mind who it is, and they proved that.
He's hard, and sometimes you got to rub fenders with him. And the biggest part is that we show each other respect, and he doesn't want controversy and wrecks and trouble any more than I do.
Well, I think Mark and I just sort of had mutual respect from each other. We've raced against each other before, and it was just a good, hard race, and we kept it that way. It never got out of hand, and never verbally got out of hand. It never got out of hand on the racetrack, and the crews both handled it well. They worked against racing against each other all year long, and did it competitively and did it clean. And it was an enjoyable year, really, racing with him. I had a good time doing it. And we raced close couple races. We scuffed a little paint here and there, but we still raced hard. And I think it's one of the best years I've had in racing.
So is that the new Dale Earnhardt we were watching last year?
I reckon the years I've been racing, I've learned to control my aggressiveness a little more than I used to. I seen a hole, I'd stick it in there and let it grind and go, you know. And now I've been a little more controlled, I think. But still, it wasn't doing it in intentionally trying to get somebody in trouble. You just putting the race car somewhere that, you know, maybe you should wait a little longer. But I've always been a little on the aggressive side, but I think I'm a little more experienced with it now and use a little maybe finesse, a little patience, and you know, take a little more time with it now.
I know when you entered racing in the late 70s, you know, we'd race together before we ever saw a Winston Cup racetrack, and you knew a lot about racing then. You knew what it took to run, you knew what it took to win, but how long did it take you to learn how to handle this big money, the media? There's so much pressure on the other side of the fence now. Was that hard to cope with?
Well, not having a good education, it made it tougher to handle the money at first and to organize things like you need to. But as the years went on, and you know, Teresa and I got married in '82, and we started doing better long about then as far as the financial end of it. And you just sort of try to use common sense, and unfortunately I've had a little bit of common sense about me, and investing your money well and making it work for you. But Teresa's handling most of the money problems, so I don't have to worry about just go deer hunting.
Good. It don't cost us a lot. We'll get there and go hunt. We can live with this. But as you said, you learned the media thing along. Did you set a goal for that, or did you just kind of let it try to pick it up as you went along, just kind of roll with the punches, or did you just have to put a concentrated effort on that?
Well, at first I didn't really realize the media was a big part of racing. I was sort of just racing and enjoying myself, and then I learned that the media could hurt you. You know, they wrote some bad things about me or a bad interview or whatever. So I found out they could hurt you as easy as they could help you. So I started paying more attention to the media and the press and whatever. And
it took years for Dale Earnhardt to learn to deal with some of the pressures of being a winner, the money, the fame, the media attention. I think there really is a new Dale Earnhardt. And the world got its first look at him last year at Daytona under very difficult circumstances. The proof that he made the grade came at the 1990 Daytona 500. Dale, who had never won the big race, had him covered all day long. Then he cut a tire, less than half a mile from the finish line.
Four-car shootout to decide it all. Dale Earnhardt. Here comes Cope down on the inside. Earnhardt has problems. Slopping back. Something is amiss. Here comes the field driving for the finish. And on the outside, it is car number 10, Derek Cope. Something amiss on the Earnhardt car. Coming to the line. It's Labonte pulling up, and an amazing finish. The Whitcomb Racing Team has won it.
I swallowed hard. I just, you know, when that tire blew out, I didn't think about the tire blowing out the race as much as I was thinking about trying to get the car through the corner and not crash, because I knew it was going to be a heck of a crash. I just knew it was going to be a heck of a crash. And that car, yeah, that car went through the corner, and I didn't hit the wall, and then I just get back to the line. And once I hit the line, I realized I didn't win this race. And, you know, we ended up 5th there. And then riding around there, coming back to the line there, I just realized I was going to have to get out of that car and talk about what went on or say something. I didn't know what to do. I just pulled in the garage there and sat in the car there for a few minutes and collected myself and calmed down. I got out of the car and just gave them the best statement I could.
Dale, what the heck happened on the last lap?
We run over some debris and cut a right rear tire down, David. Just a quarter of a lap away from victory. Much you could do about it.
I feel good about what I've done now, because I'd have felt real bad later if I'd have went and got in the truck and wouldn't have spoke to the press or whatever. But I sort of calmed down, got myself together, and talked about it.
1 year later, at the 1991 Daytona 500, the man they voted most likely to win, Dale Earnhardt, saw the chances for his first Daytona 500 victory spin out of his sight. Another heartbreak for Earnhardt, another test for the new Dale Earnhardt.
It burns inside, and you fight it inside. But usually Monday night or Tuesday morning, I'm okay. I can go back and, you know, go at it again. I deal with it pretty hard for the first day or two, a loss or a bad race, and then I can go pretty good after that.
The success comes along that happens to people in different sports. You know, Mike Tyson had the championship, and he kind of got in a lull there, and all of a sudden he's getting up off the carpet. That hadn't happened to you. You've been on top, you stayed on top, you've still got that edge, and every week everybody knows that you're the guy that got to beat. How has that affected you? Is it hard to keep that level?
Not at all, Neil. It's as long as I can stay healthy, and I think you know that more than anybody, is your health is something you take for granted. But as long as I stay healthy, I think I have the fire and drive to win. It's just inside me. You know, I want to go out and try to do the best I can do in every race I go to.
One more question, Dale, and then we can go hunting. In your mind, what does it take to make a winner?
Well, I think it comes from inside, Neil. It's something that's in you when you're born. I reckon ever since I've come up, it's always wanted to be the best you could be, and never what it was. And I got into racing, you know, it was around racing all my life, and it's the will to win. To, you know, to go that extra mile, I give up that, you know, the easy times, work through the hard times, and go after it.
All right, well, let me tell you what. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending this time with us, and now we're going to spend the kind of time we always spend. We're fixing to hit these woods and get out there and have a good time, and we ain't got to worry about going real fast. Just sit there and take it easy.
You seen that great old big one, and you said you wasn't going to shoot at him.
I think he looked kind of like Bullwinkle. We better go get him real quick.
Let's go.
Winners has been brought to you by Fram Filter Products. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. And Autolite Spark Plugs and wire and cable products. Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years no matter how far you go.
He arrived